I hate puzzles. My wife loves them, but I think that they are an exceptional waste of time. You're spending your money to literally buy something broken and then put it back together. Like you're literally taking a picture that is completely fractured and spending all of your time to try to rebuild it. What's the point of puzzles? I can understand somewhat that they're fun, but there has been so many times where I've seen a puzzle that has just been left with no one putting it together at all. Like, have you ever actually tried to put together a puzzle without actually seeing the final image of what it's supposed to be? Like, have you seen a puzzle and you've tried to put it together without the box and the image of the final picture of where it's supposed to go? It's literally impossible. You need that final image to be able to know where you're going and what you're supposed to do. Relationships are like that. In our everyday life, if we don't know where we're going with them, if we don't know what the point of dating is, then we don't really know how to interact while we're in it. We need that final picture and that final image to be able to put it all together. To be able to find that final puzzle piece of relationships, we need to know where we're going and how we're supposed to pursue that person. We need an image that we're supposed to pursue in order to have and hold this thing correctly. As we've gone through the Song of Solomon, we've been watching how this man and this woman have interacted in their relationship and how they've begun to care for one another, and they eventually end up getting married in the middle of the book, and we see that their marriage begins to blossom and begins to grow as they've moved from kind of this courtship to engagement to marriage. And at the very end of the book, we see these two people come together in marriage partnership, and something really beautiful happens. There's an image that they set up for us that we can begin to pursue and go after as Christians. So if you have your Bibles, open them up to Song of Solomon chapter 8. I'm going to start in the middle of verse 5 as the woman and as the man begin to kind of look at their relationship and other people begin to look into it as well. Look what it says. It says, "I awakened you under the apricot tree. There your mother conceived you. There she conceived and gave your birth. She set me as a seal on your heart, as a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, jealousy as unrelenting as Sheol. Love's flames are fiery flames, and an almighty flame. A huge torrent cannot extinguish love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all his wealth for love, it would be utterly scorned." You see in this moment that this woman is reflecting on their relationship as they begin to grow old with one another and as they've been married. She sees the importance of the relationship. She sets an image and begins to tell the young men and the young women around them, look at our relationship and see the way that we have set it. See the way that our marriage has grown, because she knows it's important for them to follow in the same footsteps. And if we have a main idea for this text, I believe that it would be that we need to prepare for future marriage by watching present realities. Prepare for future marriage by looking at present relationships that are around you. View relationships and see how people in healthy, godly marriages interact with one another and then pursue those things. Now, I want to add a disclaimer. I know that not everyone has perfect marriages that surround them. In fact, maybe your home life isn't necessarily good. Maybe you've walked through divorce in the past and you've seen your parents struggle through conflict and there's been broken-hearted relationships or things that have even happened to you. I believe that there is still restoration for you and that despite human failure, we can still walk forward in the goodness and grace of Jesus Christ. And as this Song of Solomon sets up a beautiful image of what marriage is supposed to be, we can look forward into that and see some really good qualities that you can walk in. I think there are three different things very quickly that we need to see from this text that we can see as a view and image of marriage that we should begin to pursue and know. The first one is that we need to be looking for sacrifice in a marriage relationship. In verse 6, she says, set me as a seal on your arm. Set me as a seal on your heart. There's something significant here of this woman saying, hey, I'm willing to give myself over to you permanently. I'm willing to sacrifice who I am for you. And the husband, likewise, is willing to sacrifice himself for her as well. As you look at dating relationships around you, as you look at the people that you're looking to model and imitate, are they giving themselves over sacrificially for that other person? Or do they try to just pursue the relationship for their own sake of pride and ego and self-gain? A marriage relationship that you should be modeling should be mutually caring for one another, mutually loving one another, and giving up their rights for the sake of the other person. The second thing that we see here is a commitment. She says that love is like death. It's like a flame, a fiery flame, an almighty flame that is unrelenting as Sheol. Now, at first, that kind of sounds a little bit bad. Like, normally you wouldn't walk up to your spouse or to someone that you love and say, you know, your love is like death. It's just horrible. This is not what she's obviously saying. She's not saying it's a bad thing. She's saying that love is permanent. There is a commitment here. Just as death is permanent and there's a seriousness to it and there is an eternity to it, in the same way, your love should be in that same path and that same idea, that there is a commitment, there is a permanence to it. You should be following after marriage relationships that aren't looking to get out of it as soon as possible, that aren't complaining about the fact that they're stuck in it for life. There should be a permanence and a covenant that is promised and sure, and that they're willing to stick it out through thick and thin. There's a commitment here that we see in this marriage relationship. And the last thing is that there is a value. She said that their love cannot be bought and it can't be sold. They're not willing to give it up easily. We should be watching and following marriage relationships that are willing to put everything else aside for their marriage relationship. They should prioritize it as God first, and then their marriage relationship second, and then the world and work and everything else third. Follow after relationships that are willing to put their spouse first and go forward in them. We see that there's a sacrifice, a commitment, and a value that this woman puts forward, and that we should be following and we should be modeling as we begin to pursue marriage relationships. You're not there yet. As a middle school or high school student, you're not in a marriage relationship yet. And if you are, we may need to have an extra conversation with your parents because we may be a little bit worried about you. There's a preparation that you have right now to set your heart and your dating relationships and the way that you interact with other people. And there's a way that you can begin to build your life to be able to pursue what is written about here in Song of Solomon. So my challenge for you as you prepare is, as you begin to look at the present realities around you and as you begin to think forward in the future, I want you to begin to find godly people who are in a good relationship with one another. And I want you to begin to get to know them and watch how they interact with one another. Get dinner with them. Ask them, hey, can I go get coffee with you? Can I talk with you? Can I sit next to you in service? Can I just be around you and just watch and wait? You don't have to be creepy about it. Don't be weird, but just watch and wait and see. How do they talk with one another? How do they interact with one another? Do they prioritize their time? Ask them questions about how they've gotten to that point where they're at. Watch godly marriages around you and begin to model your life in such a way that when you get to that point, you can begin to use the wisdom that they distilled upon you to be able to have a great marriage relationship in the future. God has something great planned for you. And as we begin to watch these marriage relationships grow and thrive and blossom in who God has called them to be, we can begin to prepare ourselves, even as a high schooler, even as a middle schooler, for those future marriage relationships by watching godly relationships in the way they care for one another and grow each other every single day.